Imagine stepping out onto your balcony in the middle of winter, seeing your breath mist in the freezing air, and instead of staring at dead clay pots and bare frozen soil, you are greeted by living, vibrant greens quietly shrugging off the cold. Most people operate under the assumption that the gardening season ends the moment temperatures drop near freezing, but that is only true if you are growing the wrong plants. The reality is that your balcony can be a productive food oasis even when the rest of the world looks gray and dormant. In this video, I am going to walk you through 7 incredible balcony garden crops that can survive extreme cold, even temperatures dipping below freezing, so you can keep harvesting fresh, nutrient-dense food long after everyone else has packed up their trowels for the year. We are going to look at specific varieties that are tough enough for exposed urban spaces, explore exactly how they handle the frost, and discuss how you can turn your small space into a 4-season garden without needing a greenhouse or expensive equipment. Let's start with one of the absolute toughest winter warriors you can grow in a container, which is kale. Kale is essentially the superhero of cold-hardy vegetables, and it is uniquely suited for balcony life because its root system is robust enough to handle the freeze-thaw cycles that often happen in pots. Once a kale plant is established, it can handle hard frosts and bounce back after nights that dip significantly below freezing. There is actually a fascinating biological process that happens here, where the plant converts its starches into sugars to act as a natural antifreeze, which prevents the cell walls from bursting in the cold. This means that kale harvested after a frost doesn't just survive, it actually tastes sweeter and more tender than kale grown in the heat of summer. On a balcony, kale does beautifully in deep pots or rectangular planters because those larger volumes of soil help insulate the roots. Picture a row of sturdy, dark green or deep purple frills of lacinato or winterbore kale lining your railing, standing tall even when dusted with snow. If your temperatures are forecasted to drop dangerously low, you can give your kale an extra edge by grouping your containers together near a heated wall of your apartment. But even without fancy protection, kale is often the last crop standing, providing you with fresh greens for smoothies and soups when the grocery store produce is looking tired and expensive. Moving on to a crop that is deceptive in its delicacy, we have spinach. While the leaves might look tender and fragile, spinach is incredibly resilient when it comes to battling the cold. This is one of those crops that essentially laughs at frost and will keep growing whenever there is even a brief mild spell during the winter months. For balcony gardeners, spinach is a dream because it has a relatively shallow root system, meaning it thrives in wide, shallow planters, window boxes, or even hanging baskets that you can easily move around to chase the limited winter sun. What makes spinach so powerful for extreme cold gardening is its ability to go dormant during the deepest freezes and then perk right back up as soon as the sun hits it. You will often notice the leaves staying firm and green while other hardy plants look wilted. If you sow spinach seeds a bit thickly in your containers, you can harvest baby leaves again and again throughout the winter using the cut-and-come-again method. Simply snip the outer leaves for your salad bowl and let the center of the plant continue to grow. With just a little protection from harsh drying winds, perhaps by placing the containers behind a solid balcony railing or tucking them into a corner, spinach can ride out some seriously cold nights and still reward you with fresh, iron-rich leaves. The third crop on our list is one that many beginner gardeners overlook, but seasoned winter growers swear by, and that is mâche, also known as corn salad. Mâche is a small, low-growing green with a mild, nutty flavor that has been a staple of European winter gardens for centuries. In terms of cold tolerance, mâche is in a league of its own, often surviving temperatures well below 0 degrees Fahrenheit if it has a little snow cover or a frost blanket. On a balcony, this plant is a quiet superstar because it stays small and compact, forming little rosettes of spoon-shaped leaves that hug the soil surface. This low profile allows the plant to avoid the worst of the biting winter winds that can damage taller crops. You can sow it fairly densely in a round pot, creating a lush carpet of green that looks beautiful and tastes delicious. Mâche is fantastic for underplanting beneath taller crops like kale or Swiss chard, maximizing your limited square footage. Because it grows so slowly and steadily in the cold, it essentially acts as a living refrigerator, storing fresh greens in your soil until you are ready to harvest. If you have ever wanted to experiment with true winter gardening on a balcony without worrying about constantly covering and uncovering plants, mâche is one of the best, lowest maintenance crops to start with. Before we dive into the rest of this list, if you are already getting excited about the potential of your own winter balcony garden, this is a great moment to pause and get involved with our community. If you are finding these tips helpful, please hit that like button so I know to create more content focused on cold weather growing strategies. Make sure you are subscribed to Balcony Garden Oasis so you don't miss our upcoming balcony transformation videos, detailed planting guides, and small space hacks that we release regularly. And while you are listening, start thinking about which of these crops you could realistically try on your own balcony this season. Drop a comment below and tell me your climate zone or your coldest winter temperatures. I love reading about your specific setups, and it helps me tailor future advice to your growing conditions. Now let's talk about tot soy, another incredible cold-loving green that deserves a prime spot on your balcony. Tot soy is an Asian green closely related to bok choy, but it is far more rugged when it comes to freezing temperatures. In warmer weather, tot soy grows upright, but as the weather cools, it flattens out into a tight, dense rosette of glossy, dark green leaves that look almost like a geometric flower. This flat shape is a survival mechanism that protects the plant from cold air and allows it to be insulated by snow without being crushed. In containers, tot soy is surprisingly compact, making it an excellent candidate for those smaller 6-inch or 8-inch pots you might have lying around. It handles frost extremely well and can stay alive in temperatures that would wipe out many other brassicas. What is amazing about tot soy is that it is both ornamental and edible. Those deep green rosettes look stunning against the stark backdrop of winter, but you can harvest individual leaves for stir-fries and salads whenever you need them. Even after nights below freezing, tot soy often just droops slightly, and then rehydrates and stiffens up later in the day as the temperature rises. With minimal protection, like moving the pot out of the direct path of prevailing winds, you can keep tot soy productive through a significant portion of the winter. Another massively underrated cold-hardy crop for balconies is claytonia, which you might know by the name miner's lettuce. This plant has delicate, succulent, round leaves and tiny white flowers, giving it a whimsical appearance that belies its incredible toughness. Claytonia is historically famous for saving gold rush miners from scurvy during long winters because it is packed with vitamin C and fresh nutrients. It is built for cold, damp conditions and can handle frosts that would finish off many tender lettuces. On a balcony, it does very well in shallow containers and hanging planters, where it can spill slightly over the edge and create a lush green look even in the dead of winter. One of the huge advantages of claytonia for urban gardeners is how forgiving it is regarding light. While many winter crops still crave as much direct sun as possible, claytonia can tolerate partial shade, which is perfect if your balcony faces north or is overshadowed by other buildings during the short winter days. It stays tender even in freezing weather, giving you juicy, mild-tasting leaves that add a great texture to winter salads. If you have struggled with other greens getting bitter or tough in the cold, claytonia might be the resilient, low-effort option that finally works for your specific conditions. Swiss chard is another crop that absolutely deserves a spot in your extreme cold lineup, especially the hardier varieties like Ford Hook Giant or Bright Lights. While chard generally prefers cool weather over freezing weather, established plants are impressively tough and can survive repeated light frosts and short dips below freezing, especially if they are grown in larger, insulated containers. On a balcony, Swiss chard brings something extra special to the table: vibrant color. The bright red, yellow, orange, or pink stems act like natural winter decor, providing a stunning visual contrast when everything else outside is drab and gray. The key to success with chard in extreme cold is giving the roots enough room and ensuring the soil doesn't freeze solid for extended periods. A deep pot placed near a heated wall, perhaps with other containers clustered around it for shared warmth, can keep the root zone protected. Even if the large outer leaves get a bit damaged and droopy on the coldest nights, the plant often pushes out fresh, pristine growth from the center crown when conditions improve. This means you can keep harvesting stalks and leaves over a very long season instead of replanting over and over, making it a high-yield plant for small spaces. Finally, let's talk about peas, specifically overwintering varieties like Austrian winter peas or hardy snow peas. Peas might not be the first plant that comes to mind for extreme cold, but many types are bred to withstand surprising lows once they have established a root system. In a balcony setup, peas offer the unique advantage of vertical growing, allowing you to utilize your walls or railings even in winter. You can plant peas in a long, deep balcony box or a medium pot equipped with a trellis or netting. The vines themselves are quite tolerant of cold, and while the flowers and pods are sensitive to hard freezes, the vegetative part of the plant can survive frosts and remain dormant until the weather warms slightly. This means you can sow peas late in the season, let them grow slowly through the cold months as a green cover, and then enjoy an incredibly early flush of sweet shoots and pods as soon as late winter turns to early spring. There is something deeply satisfying about seeing pea vines climbing and clinging on through the winter winds, adding height and life to your balcony when most vertical spaces are empty. When you put all of these crops together, kale, spinach, mosh, tatsoi, claytonia, Swiss chard, and peas, you start to see how powerful and productive a cold hardy balcony garden can be. Instead of treating winter as a dead season where nothing happens, you are turning your balcony into a living pantry and a visual oasis that stays green and vibrant year-round. The key philosophy here is that you do not need a massive backyard, a heated greenhouse, or perfect weather to grow your own food. You simply need the right selection of crops, appropriate containers, and a willingness to experiment with the microclimates on your balcony. By grouping your pots to share heat, tucking cold tough greens into every available corner, and using your sheltered walls to protect vulnerable roots, your balcony can transition from a 3-season garden to a 4-season powerhouse. If this video has sparked some ideas for your own extreme cold balcony setup, make sure you smash that like button so more balcony gardeners can discover these tips. Please subscribe to Balcony Garden Oasis for more step-by-step balcony transformations, seasonal planting calendars, and small space growing advice tailored to real-life urban environments. And in the comments section below, let me know which of these 7 crops you are most excited to try this winter, or if you have any other cold weather favorites that I missed. I will read every single comment and use your feedback to plan our future videos, so if you want a deep dive on any of these specific plants or a full balcony layout guide for winter, let me know. Together, let's turn your balcony into a thriving garden oasis, no matter how cold it gets outside.